We've been trying to do this together, and it is thrilling to have you here. We got to spend some time listening to that song with Kanye just a couple of weeks ago, and I loved it so much, I said, we got to play it one more time for everybody. You guys, both of you, have created a remarkable empire. That's why I wanted to talk to you, because I think you have changed culture, you've changed social media, you've changed marketing, and you've changed the way we all think about so much of this. Just to give everybody a little bit some stats here, Kris has trademarked momager, as in manager. Between Kim, Khloe, Kourtney, Kylie, and Kendall, there are 600 million Instagram followers for this family. Kylie's business is worth $1 billion. You just started Skims, and I'm told sold $2 million of product literally in the first couple minutes of it going live. And it's just an extraordinary thing that has happened over these past close to 20 years that so many of us have watched you grow up, frankly, on TV and now social media. And so where I wanted to start with you in terms of how you've built this, and it's not just you've done it once, you've done it now many, many times as the momager of this family, and with so many things that you've been doing, is what the plan was, or was there ever a plan for this to happen?
Well, I think, I think it's important to remember that when we first got started and started filming our show back in the early 2000s, there was barely Twitter. And I remember Ryan Seacrest calling me up and saying, you got to tell Kim about this little thing called Twitter, because she might find it really helpful and, some business stuff. And Kim really was the first one in my family that really taught the rest of us how to navigate that platform, and then all the other ones that were out at the time. And we were my kids were barely off this thing called a two-way, that was the phone and pagers and all this other stuff. And it was so funny because technology was happening so fast. So when we first started and we realized that the show was going to be a success, that was basically the foundation for everything else that we were able to do. And Kim and I would sit at the end of
Remember
the year.
You said that. And then when you guys see season 18, please all tweet her and remind her that she said that our show was the
foundation. The foundation.
Things have changed.
Okay, well, let me ask you about that foundation and the change, because one of the things we've been talking about a lot recently is this issue of a fragmented media. You guys started, and I think to some degree created a franchise on TV, traditional linear TV first. Right?
Yes.
And I wonder if you were to do it today, using just social media, whether you think it would work, whether it would work the same, whether it would be different?
I'm guessing my mom would say it would work the same. She is a big fan of building a brand in social media and using your voice and believing in yourself that you can make it happen through that platform. I think I'm a little bit more traditional, where I think there was some magic of us starting on TV and really building up an audience, and then the magic of timing, of being around at the same time that social media was created. I think there was just like a hit with the TV and then another hit with social media. And so when I choose to promote a product where some people, I think maybe younger generations, will just use social media, I love doing traditional TV.
Like Kylie would do, what would Kylie do?
Yeah, well, she would probably do just social media. If she's launching a product, it would be strictly on social media. I love to go and do the rounds and do the night shows. I mean, I was talking to Kendall and Kylie about, the days of Leno and Letterman, and they looked at me and was like, who? And I was like mortified. Yeah. I was so mortified. But it's really funny, and it just shows,
But there is something to be said about the way we started, the audience that we have now, and the people that follow us, and the consumers that buy our things are the people that became emotionally invested in the family. And there was always a family member that somebody either, loved or wanted to watch their journey, and everybody saw the kids grow up on TV for the last decade or so.
Well, and that's what's so interesting to me, because it's generational, right? I mean, you...
Totally,
and
yes.
You've actually now sort of almost segmented out, if you will, so many different demographic markets. in terms of both age and all sorts of, and just how people approach the family. So that's what I was thinking. When you guys create products now, do you guys sit around and say, my brand, the Kim brand represents this, the Kylie brand represents this, the Chloe brand represents, that they're all spaced out? And how does this work?
Well, they're all separate businesses for sure, and I think everybody has their own completely different demographic. And even if you think about Kim and Kylie, for example, they're, what, 16 years apart? And that's 17, that's 2 different generations, basically. And so I think that we do examine, and I treat it like an absolute CEO or COO of the family brand, because we have so much incoming and things to choose from, and banks, and...
But they're all very separate as well.
Yeah,
like, I don't
separate.
sit and discuss with Chloe or Courtney. I mean, to give advice, absolutely. But as far as like the day-to-day managing of our own brands and what we're naturally drawn to and how we operate our businesses is completely individual.
Do you feel like you're competing against each other?
No, we really honestly don't. We're very supportive. I mean, Kylie and I both have beauty brands. If we happen to be at each other's houses and see products laying around, we'll discuss it, but otherwise, we're very mindful on our calendars to not launch a product on the same time, but if she's launching concealers and I'm launching concealers, they would actually be such a different product. We have different skin, age demographic, exactly what she was talking about. So we use our products so differently that there has not been any competition, even in sales-wise. We can see our analytics. There hasn't been any crossover.
So hold on, how does this work? I'm assuming there are hundreds of companies that are coming to you every day saying, I want you to do a paid post on Instagram, or I want you to invest in my thing, or become the spokeswoman. All of these people are coming. How do you sort of sort it out? What do you accept that you want to do? What don't you want to do? Take us inside the Kardashian Jenner empire.
Well, for a paid post, I am really cautious about like what I spend. So if I overspend on something and a paid post happens to come in at that time, I'll weigh it out and think, okay, well, I have to pay for X, Y, and Z, so this paid post.
Oh, you mean your own personal expenses?
Yes, my own personal expenses. Or if I'm even like, okay, we have schooling projects, and now it's a little bit more personal for me. If I have a paid post that comes in and I think, okay, well, this can fund X amount of people that are behind bars that can help free them with simple legal fees that they just can't afford, then that would be worth it to me, even if the post might be a little bit off brand for me. I really weigh out different things now than I used to.
Okay, so what's on brand for you?
Any beauty, as long as it doesn't compete, fitness, health stuff, maybe just any health products. If when I mentioned I was having a CBD baby shower because I needed some calm before the storm of a 4th kid coming, every CBD company on the planet reached out. And it's kind of this joke also that I do. If I really want something and I'm a bit lazy, I can tweet, I'm loving Oreo. I'm craving Oreos right now. And then on my doorstep, every flavor Oreo will show up.
It's true, with her name on each cookie.
So are there companies though that come to you and you say, look, this is not me, and I'm not going to do it, or I just can't do it for whatever reason?
Well, absolutely. I mean,
I think we've really learned by trial and error, too, and experience. I mean, there was a time when I was about to say earlier that Kim and I, in the beginning, would sit and have these goals we would write down for the year and what we really wanted to do. And the first thing that we talked about, and Kim's passion was, from the very beginning, was fragrance. And that was so just her thing, was fragrance. Growing up, she loved fragrance. So that was one of our first goals that we wrote down, and something that we were able to accomplish, and that felt so good. I'll never forget her and I sitting at the Beverly Hills Hotel at this meeting, and the guy handed us a check. Do you remember that?
And we probably went in the bathroom stall and shut the door,
screaming up and like, woohoo! Yeah. And it was so exciting and satisfying and rewarding, but there's been a lot of, we've kissed a lot of frogs along the way and thrown a lot of spaghetti at the wall.
What hasn't worked for you?
Well, I mean, listen, one great example that I wanted to tell you the other day was the Got Milk campaign. I thought Kim would be so great in like a Got Milk campaign. Remember, like everybody did these Got Milk campaigns. And I thought, oh, well, she's like perfect for that. I don't know where that came from, and I'm sure I was a lot more excited and enthusiastic about this idea than the Got Milk people were. So that really never came to fruition. And then at the end of the day, a couple years ago, Kim was in a music video and she was taking a milk bath, and I thought, you did it, Kim, you got milk all over that body. So that was kind of like a fun thing. But there's been things that talk about off-brand. In the very beginning, the girls did
Well, we did everything. We
Quick
did
Trim.
everything from
Remember Quick Trim? And
we
at the end of the
did
day, you really just wanted to be
cupcakes.
curvy.
We
Exactly.
did everything you could possibly imagine. If someone came to us with a product, we were just so excited that they were interested, that we would do things that were really off-brand. And I think that even that stage in our life, I look back and think that was such a learning, growing process for us. And I feel like in the last few years, I finally found my voice on what to say no to, what to really stand up for, how to really focus in. There could be amazing deals that come our way, financially, on brand, everything, you know, fits my criteria, but if there's just no time, like now I feel like there's a power in saying no and having a little bit of time, you know, for my family and self and everything else.
Well, you have to have the
balancing
bandwidth
act.
to be able to put that kind of energy and time and creativity into a brand or an idea that somebody wants you to be a part of. And if what they're, you know, if she's signing up for something that she's never going to have time to do, it's only going to be a disservice to everyone.
So how does this work, though? So does somebody call you and say, I will pay you X amount of money for a post? Is there what's the market? What's the market right now for an Instagram post?
Well,
I don't ever talk money.
I think that what we do have is, I started to say earlier, is this great incoming of offers and deals that come through, whether it's a private equity, a brand, a VC, a bank. You know, there's just so much coming in that we and she, my kids all have to be their own CEO. I might act as the CEO of a bigger picture and just weigh each thing that comes in.
I will say a cute story since my husband's here. So there was a fast fashion brand, a few of them, and they would knock off Yeezy all the time. His color palette designs, and so this fast fashion brand offered me $1 million for an Instagram post. And I thought, okay, well that's, you know, easy just to wear clothes that, you know, I could pick anything that I wanted. It's a quick post. And when I told him about it, he asked me not to do it and said, you know, out of respect, I don't think that we should be giving them everything. They copy everything. It's, you know, I completely understood why he said no. I gladly said no. And then for Mother's Day, he handed me an envelope, and it was a check for $1 million saying thank you for not posting for the other brand, and then I don't know if I'm supposed to say this or if I have, or a contract to be an owner in Yeezy as a thank you. So
Yeah, Kanye.
so there is power in saying no sometimes.
There is some power in saying no. How do you think about your influence on the marketplace broadly in terms of what you project out to the public? And the reason I ask is, and you know, when Kylie tweeted at one point, I don't know if you saw this, that she tweeted that when she didn't use Snap anymore,
I
she stopped
saw it.
using Snap. Snap's market value literally dropped by $1.3 billion. So how much?
Oops.
I mean, more than oops, though. But so when you post or when you speak, I mean, it's hard to sometimes probably remember
Yeah.
who you are
This
to
is
some degree
always a
and
tough one
what
to
the
me.
influence is.
Yeah, this is always something that I struggle with, because I believe that people should be themselves. Even if it's not what you agree with, even if it's not your beliefs and values, I believe in being yourself. And so when you start thinking about how you have to censor yourself so much, because it could, I mean, I personally might not say bad things about people unless I'm provoked and I have to stand up for, you know, family. But generally, I try not to talk about like other brands. If I didn't like a particular ice cream or something, you know, that I feel like could hurt a brand, I just kind of stay away from it.
It's a big responsibility.
However, I do believe that people should speak freely. And if that's not what Kylie was doing and that was authentic to her, then I don't think that there's something wrong with that. But I struggle with that because it's like I always really do care about people's feelings, and I'm really compassionate about a headline like that. I would feel bad about it, but you also just have to be yourself at the same time.
How much do you think about your brand and his brand? And I'm looking at Kanye right now in terms of how you guys work together. And I know that you were part of really actually remaking the way Skims actually turned out.
Yeah, I mean, our brands, we respectfully let each other have our own voices in our own brands and create our own brands, but we're very much together in every last decision and detail that we make. So like for Skims, you know, he drew the logo. Our packaging was one way, and I thought it looked amazing. And then he walked in and had about a 2-hour conversation with my whole Skims team about why it was not so amazing. But it was really inspiring, and really, when you look back, it was really trendy, the old packaging, and I would have been sick of it by now. And he really gave us like amazing advice on how we want it to be classic and timeless, and all the packaging that the team was bringing us of other products in the marketplace, they were saying, isn't this better than that? And Kanye's main advice was, why don't you go get packaging that you think is the best of all time? It doesn't have to even be in the marketplace, but any product, and you should strive to be on that level. Why are you striving to be better than the worst? And it really clicked to the whole team. We all went back to work, and he picked like our photographers, was involved in the castings for the models for Skims, and colorways, I mean, everything you could think of. So we really are, he's like my ghost stylist and my ghost creative director, and it's amazing to have someone that you really respect and value their creative opinion.
What do you think about your impact on culture? And the reason I say the impact on culture is there is a sense, and social media has been a big part of it, but I think a lot of people have looked at you and your family as role models in many ways, where everything is now just exposed. You put it all out there, and there's something very authentic about that, but I think there's also people, especially of different age groups, who have misgivings about that and sort of where the line is for privacy and how much to really share or to overshare.
Well, I think from the beginning, one of the things that we said to ourselves was we wanted to have a successful show. If we were going to do this and put ourselves out there, then we really needed to do that. And so we said, let's just show everything and just be ourselves. And
Cut to, guys. Remember that episode I'm talking about? There better be audio for this, because I need this on a loop to play this back to her.
Oh my God,
when this episode comes out.
Okay, I had a bad week a couple weeks ago. Just remember that too, okay, guys?
Few months.
Yeah, so this is gonna turn into a family feud. So in the beginning, and that's, I think, was this whole thing is the perfect storm. I think being able to work with the family and having everybody on board, but all at the same time willing to show, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
What do you think? We're going to talk to Kevin Systrom in just a little bit, who co-founded Instagram. And there's lots of questions about mental health related to social media, whether it's giving people good or bad body images in terms of how they think about themselves, whether liking is actually a good thing.
Right.
There's so many people. I meet young people today who say, I just want to get famous as quickly as possible, get as many followers as possible, and then I'm going to figure out a way to monetize that.
And nobody has a plan B. That's the problem, is if you really put all of your eggs in this basket, I tell everybody that I speak to is you really have to have something to hang your hat on and create something for yourself that's sustainable and a business that can grow. It's just not about being famous. For us, we happen to be lucky enough and blessed enough to have a show, and that kind of started everything else. Okay, don't say it again. So, that's very valuable, and that's something that continues to be very successful in almost 200 countries around the world and as many languages. So we got very lucky.
It is tricky, and it is, I think about when I raised my kids and screen time, phone time, what to post, what not to post. even posting things in real time, I learned from a bad experience that I had when I was robbed, that people really knew my every move. They knew what I had, they knew where I was, what I was doing, you know, and that to me really changed maybe the things that I post. And I still want people to feel like they're along that journey with me, but I might video something and then post it like 30 minutes later when I've left the location, more for privacy.
Right.
But as far as mental health, I mean, it's something that, you know, I think taking the likes away and taking that aspect away from it would be really beneficial for people. And I know that the Instagram team has been having lots of like inner conversations with a bunch of people to get everyone's take on that and is taking it really seriously. And that makes me happy.
Do you read all your comments?
I do not. But I find myself to be extremely mentally strong. And I have people, friends that are obsessed with reading the comments, and I find that to be really unhealthy. So I struggle with like having to step outside of how I feel and thinking about like, what if one of my children was like one of my friends that wasn't as mentally strong and would really be affected by the comments? That would really affect me.
Want some water?
We'll get
Yeah,
you some
I
water
have
if we
one.
can
Sorry.
get some water. I had a separate question, which relates to this. A lot of the conversation we've been having this morning is about CEOs, oh, thank you so much, about CEOs who have felt like they are now taking or being pushed to take positions, either political positions or positions in terms of culture and what's happening in society in a way that perhaps they didn't just a couple of years ago. You've gotten very involved in the mass incarceration topic. But I'm curious actually from a brand perspective, in terms of how far you think you're willing to go on, you know, we've had people, we're going to talk about gun violence in a minute actually after this session, but you know, whether it's immigration or all of these other issues that are very political, and we live in this sort of very politicized world. You've now spent some time at the White House.
Yeah.
How do you think about that?
I am a really firm believer that you should be who you are, believe in what you want to believe in. And as a brand, I'm the type of person that I could separate political beliefs from brands, and I believe that people should have the right to believe in whatever they want to believe in. And so if I don't really push politics on my brands, I also believe that like Kim Kardashian West is also a person, not just like the KKW brand. So I will speak up personally on politics when I have to and when I want to.
Did you get pushback though? There's some people who like the president and there's some people who can't stand the president.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I focus on prison reform, and the president has done amazing things in prison reform. I will also speak up when I feel like something is not how I feel like the world should be, and that could be immigration or other things. I'm very focused. There's a lot that we have to get done in prison reform, and I believe I will be more beneficial if I just focus on that at the moment. So I'm grateful for that relationship in that area, and I focus on that. But that was a big thing where people, so many people advised me, don't go to the White House. And that didn't make sense to me, because I was like, a life, if someone can get out of prison and get their life back versus my reputation of going to the White House, where there's only one person on this planet that can make the decision, and that would be the president. And that was even a question of, for the media. That just absolutely didn't make sense to me. I would go see anyone in power that would have that decision to change someone's life.
You don't like politics. I know you don't like politics.
She never talks politics.
I want to get to questions in this audience because I know there are people who want to ask you a handful of questions.
Okay.
And we're going to do that in just a second. But you're studying to be a lawyer.
I am.
Your father was a lawyer.
L1, it's almost over.
Okay, so tell us, what's the plan? What is this about?
You know, I think that the more, I would go into the White House, and I remember sitting in the Roosevelt room, and they called me in for a clemency meeting, and I'm thinking to myself, like, holy shit, they're asking me to be in a clemency meeting? Like, I'm just gonna, you know, and I definitely raised my hand and asked questions and was as involved as I could have been, but there were some attorneys there that I knew, and so I felt this comfort in asking them all these questions, and I just wanted to know more. I wanted to, the more that I know, the more that I can do. And it's so interesting, because had I done this back in college, I wouldn't have cared at all. Like, I wouldn't have gotten through it. Now, when I'm studying contracts, and these are like actual life things that I'm dealing with now, and now that I own my own home and I'm old enough, and I'm, you know, studying torts, and I'm learning about personal injury, like everything I'm so interested in, it actually pertains to my life. It does not feel like I am, I mean, I'm definitely working really hard, and it's a commitment that I've chosen to take this time away from my family to study and to not go out with my friends and like live a different life. And I'm so okay with that. I love it. And I just hope that one day I can start a firm that will help with prison reform and really help. I would love to hire these men and women that are behind bars, because they know the law better than
So you want to start
most
a law?
lawyers.
You want to start a law firm?
I do. Yeah, I really do.
Let's open it up to questions, because I know there's so many people who have hands up. I don't know. I see Leslie Stahl, who taught me my whole career watching Leslie Stahl do interviews herself from 60 Minutes. Leslie Stahl, get her a microphone.
So first off, Andrew, you're doing a remarkable job.
Thank you,
and I
Leslie.
salute you, really. I'm in awe. I mean, so many people to interview in one day, wow. And I want to congratulate both of you, not only for building such a successful business, but for using it now for issues that you think are important. But what I want to ask you about is social media in general. It's come under a lot of controversy, attacks, spreading things like calcium pills cure cancer. There's bullying, and now the question of political ads. So this world that you live in has become extremely controversial. And I wonder if you're worried about it, and if you think it will hurt your business just to be on these sites. Just what your general opinion is of the direction social media is taking.
I think for me, just to answer your question about, as far as family goes, what I worry about are future generations and my grandkids. And so my biggest issue is the bullying side of it, because it really is so upsetting. And the kids that are being affected by it are younger and younger and younger. I have every age of, I have 10 grandchildren. So that's every age you can think of. And the stuff that they see, I see in my almost 10-year-old grandson, who talks about it often and very dramatically about how it affects him. So I can only imagine, you know, everyone else in the world and how their families are affected by it, and the families that aren't paying attention. There's so many parents that are, you know, working parents and don't pay as much attention. And, you know, we're really on all of the stuff that my kids are on, what their kids are watching. But it does worry me a lot.
But it does worry me, as I don't think social media is going away. But I do think that, like me, just I'd say in the last few years, and my evolution, maybe some of the things that I would post a few years ago wouldn't be certain things that I would post now for those reasons of maybe the wrong message. But I do believe that the social media brands are paying attention. I know that I personally have received meeting requests and calls from really high up people that want opinions and input on how to try to fix these problems.
Is it people from Facebook and Instagram, people like that, or from the government?
Facebook and Instagram people. So I do know that people are taking it seriously, but it is something that I worry about all the time for my children and what they see. So I hope that they do make some changes just to make it a more friendly place.
let's see if we can sneak in a couple more questions. And I don't know if I can do this. Kanye, can we get you a microphone just for 1 second? I have a question for you, which is, no. You've now joined this family, and they've learned a lot from you, which they just talked about. And I'm actually curious what you have learned from this empire that's being built.
Yeah, I think if my family wasn't so, they didn't work so hard and they weren't so omnipresent, maybe I would just rest on my laurels of just being the greatest artist of human existence, and that would just be enough. But that's shown that is not enough. That you have to, you have to hit the gym, that you have to communicate, that you have to, it's it's like modern day Medici or Rome. It's an era that people will remember for all of human existence. And this, social media, every time you ask a question, I have a thought on it every time, because social media is like the new, not saying that it's particularly as negative as cigarettes, and not saying that it's a full Edward Bernays, torches of freedom, full empowerment. But I do think that, I've done interviews often that, if I post 100 posts, they're like, oh, he needs to go to the hospital, he's going crazy. But Instagram and different social media they have the likes come back at a slower speed. They have a certain amount, of posts that you should do to look normal, and it's actually controlling the rate at which we're supposed to advance and communicate as human beings for what is said as the common norm, and actually that makes it be where 50 people can control the billion people that are now getting into real estate to try to control 2 billion and 3 billion. Should we cut the mic right now? Okay, go ahead. So, it's a matter of, in my perspective, Jesus has already won the victory. And it's for me as a man, as a Christian, as a billionaire, as a founder of a $3 billion company, to stand up and be, this has to be stated because the Forbes chose to call me a centimillionaire when I showed them the receipts of $890 million last year. And that was, it wasn't funny to me. But just as a male opinion, looking at my daughters and looking at my family, and as we are starting this church and saying that this innovation and community and what we're doing with education and what we're doing, in politics, even now, like we have 12,500 acres in Cody, Wyoming, and Trump has actually opened up the ability to buy more land. And in America, America, you can buy land and we can be owners, and we don't, often have to be just the product of what Black Twitter tells us what we're supposed to do, or, any black man that, this has been taken out of every single one of my interviews, so I'm going to say it now. My father was a Black Panther. My mother was arrested, for the sit-ins at age 6 to fight for us to have the right to vote. But it was the right to vote for who we tell you to vote on. It's okay that any black man voted for Hillary, this is coming up next, but if a black man didn't vote for Hillary, you're a coon. LeBron, we're gonna burn your jersey in Akron if you choose the team you wanna go to. If you come back to Cleveland, then you're a hero. If you go to no, that's not where we want you to be. But my parents fought for us to have the right to have our own opinion. And sometimes in social media, they can even put false comments about 6, 7 in to try to indoctrinate, and control our minds of what the masses think. Look at the century yourself. Look at Edward Bernays. Look at propaganda. Right. Should the mic cut right now? Or what do you want to do with it?
I would continue this for hours. I just know that we've got a couple of other fabulous people. They're not as fabulous as Kanye, and I want to thank you for that. I appreciate that very, very much. Final question from me for both of you. which is, if we came back here in 10 years from now and sat together again and talked about what the Jenner-Kardashian empire looks like, what do you think it will be?
I think we would be just continuing doing what we're doing. I mean, the one thing that everyone asks me is, what more, what's next? And I always think like, well, I want to live in the moment because there's already a lot on my plate and I want to nourish each thing that we're doing. I hope that my beauty brand and fragrance brand continues to grow. I hope Skims is an amazing business and everywhere and a necessity for people. I really want to focus, and I hope that I'm a lawyer in 10 years and have an amazing firm and changing the whole prison system. I really hope that I will just be more into that, and I hope that all my sisters and brother and everyone is just happy and living on a farm in Wyoming.
What do you say, Kris? You're taking 10% of everything. So
I know. It's fabulous. Well, 10 years from now, I'll be 74.
It was her birthday yesterday.
Yeah, but thank you guys. You know, I'm so proud of them. And I think that one thing that a lot of people probably, maybe they do, but you know, a lot of people don't realize is the work ethic is second to none. And I think just watching them grow and build their companies, getting more and more independent within their own brands and figuring it out, and the creativity, the way they work together, I think that we're building something so fantastic. And just being able to figure out what really works for each one of them is very rewarding for me. And hopefully in 10 years, I can sit back and watch them do it all by themselves.
Please join me in thanking Kim and Kris and Kanye.
Thank you.